too many times. All right, so it says we're live, and it shows we're live. All right,
We're live.
I take it back. I shouldn't have doubted it. All right. All right, so good morning, everybody. Welcome to the show. Happy Wednesday. Today we are chatting all about meaning. We're not going to get too existential on you and talk about meaning of life stuff, although I guess you could go there. But we want to talk about like the meaning in your classroom, how you extrapolate that out to the persona that is your business, and how you make yourself more effective in all these different venues. So this came about because I was reading an article, and I wish I would have saved it. You know, Facebook being what Facebook is, I clicked the link, loved the article, went back to my feed, it's gone. So I wish, I'm going to try to find it, but no promises. But the article was all about the learning experience for kids, and they use the age groups of like our basic skills and core skills kids, and how I don't want to quote exact stats because I don't remember the article exactly, but basically it was saying that there was something like a 40% increase in the effectiveness of a lesson if kids in those age groups had it tied to something meaningful. And this is like an argument that I always have anytime I talk about scholastic stuff, where they say, well, you have to take a certain type of math. And I always say, why? And they respond, well, it teaches critical thinking. And my response is always, well, then why don't you just teach critical thinking? They never tie, like, well, yes, math does teach critical thinking, just like martial arts does teach discipline. They never really tie it in and say, well, this is how you're going to develop critical thinking skills. They just expect that by doing it, it'll magically happen.
Funny you say that, because with the stages of development course that I'm teaching right now with within the Skillz certified pediatric ninja specialist, we're talking about the different intelligence. And no, math is not the only thing that teaches critical thinking, because there's different, abstracts. So
yeah, and I think, and like, don't get me wrong, I thoroughly believe in the importance of education, and believe that people should have access to it, and I do believe that people should learn math. But my issue was always that we don't have that link in our public school experience. Now, there are teachers, individual teachers, who are masters at their craft and can make those links. I've had those teachers, and even math teachers, who have made those links for me, and it's been so impactful. So as we look at our own businesses, we want to also make sure, I mean, you've heard us talk before about, like, don't make promises unless you can say how. Right? Don't promise you're going to get better grades unless you can show how you're going to get better grades. Don't promise better discipline unless you can demonstrate it. If you're a Skillz member, well, you've already got that all built in. You already know how it works, and it's built right into the classes. But now I would like to encourage us, and let's take this journey to make sure that every single thing that happens, from the moment a child walks in to the moment that they leave, has meaning, and that we're communicating that meaning. And I think the perfect example in Skillz, I learned when I first joined Skillz that I was doing mat chats wrong. We used to do the mat chat at the end of class, and we'd speak over the top of the kids, and we wanted the parents to hear all the good, juicy keywords that they thought they were paying for, and we were really talking to the parents, and it was a retention tool. And that does have some value. But then when I learned, well, if you do the mat chat, before you even do the first drill, and take the time to explain to the kids what you're going to be teaching them that day, why you're teaching it, and how it'll help them do something, that when they then jump into the drill, they'll have that aha moment where they say, oh, that's what Sensei was talking about, or Sifu was talking about. Now I get it. And the lessons now stick with them longer. So it was the same idea as this article. Now, John, I know that when I walk into your school, we've all talked about your walking conversation. Everything, even in your design in your school, has meaning. So once somebody's a student, let's say they've already done the walking conversation, and it gets reinforced every time they walk in just because of the design of your school. What are some things? And I know you have your stuff together, so I'm going to ask you to pretend a little bit and step back here. What are some things that maybe happen in the child's experience during that 45 minutes that they're with you? Either that you found you didn't need anymore because it didn't really have meaning for the student, or something that has meaning that maybe people don't realize how much meaning it has.
Okay. The first thing that we realized that has zero meanings to the students, and it just became based on a tradition or based on a concept, is the first thing that comes to my head is wearing a uniform. Like to a child that walks in the door, it's like, okay, it's karate. The only thing they really care about is the belt.
Yeah.
That white uniform or the black.
Right? When did I get a black belt?
We found like there is zero meaning to it. We found there is zero meaning to, the concept of maybe the flags. Now, at the end of the day, I think for us, especially with the younger kids, we've taken away all the complex names. They can't really relate to some of the, like if you're saying in Korean, like, achagi or uchagi or, to them it's like, okay, wait, what? So it's like, okay, let's make it simple, because we want to teach them the main point. We want to focus on, enhancing them intellectually and connecting the intellectual with the physical concept versus them having to remember name, block, chamber, all that stuff.
Yeah, and that's interesting because we went through the same process, and it doesn't mean that those things don't have value within your school. They can have value for other reasons: culture, identity, just practical purposes. Like if you're teaching a grappling class to adults and you want to teach them hardcore throws, you're not going to be able to do it in a t-shirt. You're not going to gi choke somebody in a t-shirt without leaving them standing there naked. So they do have their place in your school. But I think when we're looking at kids, it is important to recognize what is that place, and is it just because that's supposed to be? And we did the same thing. For us, uniforms wasn't a big deal. I mean, we Chinese stylists love our fancy uniforms, but if you go to China, all the traditional schools are wearing like pants and a t-shirt, or they're wearing, actually, most big schools now, their traditional uniform is like a running suit, with the zipper and everything. So it gave us permission to stop buying these really expensive uniforms that kids were outgrowing in a couple of months.
Yeah.
And it made it more beneficial to the kids or to the parents' budget. And same thing with forms. We have these forms, and when you give them the names in Chinese, half the time we're not even saying it right in Chinese. Funny side story, we found out that one of the forms, the way that we were saying it, it's supposed to mean the first fist, like the first form that you would learn in this series. But the way we were pronouncing it meant it was the chicken fist. So it's like, even the thing that we were trying to maintain, it was totally off base. At which point we decided just to start doing the forms, and we would mention the names, but it wasn't really important. Yeah. It was more important for us to talk about why it was named that in English. So why is it named the first fist? Because it teaches the 5 moves that every other form in this series is going to be based off of. That makes much more sense than some funky words in Chinese. If you don't wear the traditional uniforms, the school down the street tells everyone you're a McDojo. Don't get me started on traditional, because those uniforms are only but maybe 100 years old. If you look traditionally back at even the modern traditional masters, Funakoshi, and some of this area, they worked out in their underwear or in shorts and like what's essentially a wife beater. So I don't play.
We have a unwritten motto in the studio, and that's go train with the rest, then come train with the best. because what they're going to realize is they can go down the street. People, if you're training with somebody that's constantly bashing somebody else, eventually parents will realize that. And
some parents dig that, and that's okay, because that's not the people you want in your school.
yeah,
some parents thrive on that chaos and that negativity, and we don't want those people in our school anyway.
and this is why we qualify people through, our conversations or through our first visit, instead of just signing people up.
Mm-hmm. And what I like, ever since we when you did, we did too, switched over to the t-shirt based uniforms and the program specific t-shirts and everything. One of the things that we like to explain, because part of having meaning is being able to convey that meaning. If you're not conveying it, you could be teaching how to levitate and people won't care because you're not conveying it. Is that we want kids to learn what we're teaching them, not that their uniform is itchy or that it's uncomfortable or that it's hot. We all know that most companies don't design gis for American style bodies. They're designed for more Asian body styles, which are just different in general. Don't send me hate mail about it. So when we talk about, like, our uniform is t-shirt and pants, and sometimes we do get the question, well, why do you do that? Well, because part of the lesson is we're teaching kids that when you look good, you feel good. When you feel good, you do good. And yes, a uniform does teach that, but we want them to practice on clothing that they'll actually wear. We want them to practice making sure their t-shirt is not wrinkled, that their pants are on straight and don't have oatmeal, all over their lap. We want them to really be able to take that lesson home, not just have it be something that's special when you put on, the magic ninja suit.
And let's not forget the different sensory issues that some of the kids may have as they're growing up. How many times, and I speak from experience, how many times have you bought your children something and they try to put it on and they're like, oh, I don't like it. I feel funny in it. And then 50% of the time the children are trying to do things. And for us, we've got the crossover uniform, right? And the uniform is falling off and it's coming down to the shoulder. And it's like it's just weird looking.
How much time does the average martial arts instructor spend fixing belts and uniforms instead
of Absolutely. So by going into the t-shirt and the uniform concept,
these comments are killing me.
No, I see them right here. God, be string. And on the other side of that, let's not forget, if you want to talk about tradition, well, military-wise, you don't wear your formal uniform every single day of the week. You've got your fatigues and you've got your formal wear. So we want the kids to feel extra special. We want them to feel like super excited when it comes to testing time. So we have the white uniform, traditional gi for testing, for competitions, and they feel so good about themselves. I mean, come on, let's face it. When you put on a suit and a tie, you may not like it. Yeah, it's like, oh, I have to wear a suit and a tie. But then when you put it on, you're like, dude, it's been a while.
Yep. So it's a special thing, right?
Yeah, exactly. So look at it from that perspective. And then now they're not just getting belts from class to class to class to class. No, now extrinsically, when they're moving from one age group to that next age group, and they know they want to put that t-shirt on because, again, ultimately speaking, they want that t-shirt. They like their t-shirt, but they always want to be like the older kids. So they want that next t-shirt.
And I think, and this is like an easy one, the thing that everybody says, oh, it's just something you do, and examining it, and sometimes it's our personal belief systems and biases that drive these things. And that's okay, as long as we acknowledge it. I think also, in the learning experience, as we jump into the classroom environment, everything in there has at least one reason. Usually there's layers, especially if you're running a skills program. Even the warm-ups are not just warm-ups. They are specifically placed in a certain part of class so that not only are we warming up the muscles and the body, but we are stimulating blood flow to the brain, and we are doing the warm-ups in such a way that we are causing neuronal firing so that your brain is just spiking and taking up all these nutrients and oxygen. And now when it's running at their peak, we have an intellectual discussion, and we're really explaining things. So everything has at least one or two meanings. Could be a physical meaning, could be an intellectual meaning, could be emotional, social, or some combination thereof. And I think this is really important when we look at like objective measures for testing or stripe testing. It's easy to just look at the paper and say, all right, well, you have to do 25 kicks without putting your foot down. Okay, well, why do I have to do that? We need to be able to know why we're doing something, because if I just say, I don't know, because that's what the sheet says, and we buy this curriculum and they say that makes us child development specialists. Well, all right, but if you want to be the premium school, and I don't just mean charging, very often we talk about raise your prices because we want you guys to live great lives. But it also has to do with raising the value of your product. If you're just saying, well, this sheet says do 5 kicks or 15 kicks, so that's what we did, versus, well, when we do this, it's not only a chance for your child to gain great core strength, great leg strength, but it's a chance for us to assess their proprioception, their vestibular senses, their posture. We could see the strength in their hip adductors and abductors. We can see whether they're starting to have flat feet, which is very common in kids at that age. We're seeing, are they still tiptoe walkers, which now becomes something of a concern at that age. We can really see a tremendous amount about a child because they did 5 kicks without putting their foot down. And the more you can explain that and convey that simply and proactively, not just reactively when somebody asks you, I think the more valuable your program is. I may be wrong.
I hardly think so.
Yeah, but you're a little biased because you do the same thing.
just slightly.
Although I guess it does say something that I know I'm the most expensive school in my area by a long shot, and we're doing okay.
And currently we are as well, because for some reason the other studios felt like they need to drop their prices to meet the market.
So Tim asks a good question. What does tiptoe walking mean? I had a kid who did that. So tiptoe walking is very natural at younger ages. And it's nothing to be concerned about, just to be noticed. As kids start getting closer to 6 to 7 years old, and definitely by extreme skills, 10 years old, now we start seeing this as a gait dysfunction, something that's wrong with their gait pattern. And it could be caused by a lot of things. It could just simply be that their calf muscles are too tight. It could just mean they need to stretch a little more. It could be a sensory processing disorder where they don't like the feel of having their whole foot on the ground, and walking tiptoe allows that more cat padding, softer type of stepping. It could be, and this is stuff we're careful about how we describe to parents, could be neurological disorders where they're, the way that their nerves fire aren't activating muscles the right way. It could be heel spurs. There's a lot of different things that it could be. And it's a little bit outside of our scope of practice to try to diagnose it, though we should be aware that, hey, something's going on here, and very often there are correlations if a child goes between beyond 9 or 10 with other dysfunctions, other disorders, sometimes autism, sometimes emotional disorders even, that can manifest this way. For example, if a child lives in an abusive household where there's a lot of chaos, and they know that if they disturb their father or whatever, the father really comes down hard on them, they will walk tiptoed to make sure they never make any noise. So it could be a lot of different things. Our job is to recognize it and maybe casually mention it to the parent that, hey, next time you go for your well checkup, just ask your doctor about tiptoeing. It's usually nothing to be concerned about. But if it is, I would love to be able to help the child work through it. So let's see what they say.
The thing is, if they're doing regular checkups, then the doctors should recognize it almost by 2 or 3 years old.
Yeah, sometimes it's amazing how sometimes stuff like that goes unchecked. Like I find myself still tiptoe walking sometimes, um, and it's not always something wrong. Sometimes it's just the way somebody walks.
Mhm.
I read, I go to Ren fairs and Renaissance fairs and stuff, and I read an article about how if you go back 2,000 years, everybody walked on their tiptoes, and it wasn't until about 500 years or so ago that they created hard-soled shoes that allowed people to have that swing through heel strike gait comfortably. And that's why if you look in all of the Renaissance era paintings, they're all standing where one foot is planted and one foot is turned out on its toe, because that's how people walked in soft-soled shoes. So it's not necessarily anything bad. It's just something to be aware of. All right, well, yeah, glad that helped.
Michael can write a blog on it if he wanted to. William.
So, I mean, if you want tips like this to help enhance what you're looking for in your program, right? Everything we do has a meaning. We don't do the running skill because we just want kids to get rid of their energy. We do the running skill because we want to watch their gait. We want to see their muscular control. We want to see their ability to self-regulate emotion when we tell them to stop, but they're excited to run. If you want really good, simple tips on this, I follow some people on Instagram, and the easiest way to find them is to go to, and I'm not trying to plug my Instagram thing or anything, but if you go to Skillz of Patchogue on Instagram, and on my profile, look at who I'm following. And I follow a lot of pediatric developmental specialists, physical
Yes.
therapists, occupational therapists, social workers, psychotherapists. Follow some of them. They do a really good job of doing 1 minute topical discussions on what it means for a child to stand early, what it means for a child to move in a certain way, how to help a child build certain types of strengths, and some of the things that we can look for. And they aim it at parents, which makes it super easy, first of all, for me to understand it because I'm not a physical therapist. And second of all, for me to convey that information to my parents' groups once I've learned it. So go do your due diligence and search those people out.
Yeah, that minute and a half vlogs that a lot of them do, they're pretty awesome.
It's amazing how much you can learn in that short period of time.
Yeah.
Because half the time, like, look, just like uniforms and counting in strange languages, a lot of times it's stuff we already know or do or see. We just never had that connection made for us. So
Absolutely.
You don't have to learn the whole lesson. You just have to have that aha moment. And that's what makes it really powerful. So let's take this out and let's talk about our business persona a little bit. You know, that voice that our business communicates with the community. How do we convey all of this meaning, right? A lot of us are going through that transformation to Child Development Center in various, flavors. And we're getting the two pushbacks. One is our colleagues and contemporaries saying, well, you teach discipline? Well, we do that too. Well, you teach physical development? Yeah, we do that too. So how are we differentiating without tearing them down, just stating who we are? And how do we speak to the audience that doesn't even realize that they want something like this? How are we conveying meaning in all of our advertising or marketing?
For us, we try to follow the child development concept. We try to follow understanding how, for example, when parents call us, we follow the brain skills concept. And that's what we've been tackling them with lately, by understanding how the brain, I guess, instead of saying learn and grow, but how the brain is developed at different ages. That's how we work with the children. We implement or we instill discipline by, influencing them and helping them understand what needs to be done versus having them, instead of forcing discipline on them. So for us, a lot of parents, they want the children to have fun. But then again, it depends on the parent and what their needs are. So we tackle it from the pain point of the parent versus just talking to them about it. And that makes a difference, because once I start asking certain questions and I know what the pain point is, I know which road I need to take and what conversations I need to have.
I like that you said that you ask the question. A lot of times we get in our spiel and we just get going. Like, here's what we're going to do for you and we're going to sign you up, but we never figured out like what they want.
Yeah.
I did a post, I guess it was about 2 or 3 years ago, maybe. And it was in one of the instructor groups, not a Skillz group, one of those instructor groups where there's a lot of powerful opinions, let's say. And I just said, like, what's your biggest frustration teaching kids? And there were some real gems in there, some real legitimate, hey, I need help with this, or this used to be a thing and I've overcome it. And then there was a lot of, the joking around, like when they tie me up in the corner and make me cry. But it was a great post because it helped me establish myself as a Skillz representative, because I was able to then go through, ask a follow-up question to every single person that posted, and then start the conversation about how they might be able to do it a little bit better. You can do this same thing with your marketing, and instead of getting out there and saying, hey, Joe's Karate and we teach discipline, you can post on your page or in a parents group and say, hey, parents, what's your biggest challenge with discipline? And let them tell you what they want to hear. And then you can follow up. My biggest problem with discipline is my kid never listens to me the first time that I tell him to do something. And then you could do like Melody's classic follow-up. All right, so when you did this, were you in the other room screaming at him, or were you crouched down in front of him with a hand on his shoulder making eye contact? What was your level of connection?
Absolutely.
And then I can start providing solutions using my class as an example. So this is like passive marketing. I won't say, hey, sign up for my classes and I'll teach your kid discipline. I'll provide them the answer based on what they gave me. Okay, so what we do in our classes that works really well to help kids build discipline is when we need to redirect somebody. It's a little frustrating sometimes because I have to stop my class, but I'll go over and get down on their level and put a hand on their shoulder, make eye contact, and ask them to do it again, and make sure that my level of connection is there. It seems to work really well in my classes. Why don't you give it a try? And when it works, because it will, when it works, now they say, man, where was that guy from? Let me look up his classes. I'm providing the meaning behind what I do in class and helping parents do it as well. I think a lot of people miss out on that teaching aspect of advertising. It's worked well for us.
Provide them your niche. Provide them what you're good at.
Yeah.
But I mean,
teach them how to be good at it.
One of the things that, kind of like you said, we used to do is as soon as they call us, we're like ready to spit out everything, tell them how good we are and who we are. But this whole entire time you're talking, you might realize, or they might realize, is, well, I've got this issue and I need it solved, but you haven't discussed it yet. So save yourself the headache and just simply ask, what made you interested in martial arts, or why do you want your child to do martial arts?
Yeah, let them sell themselves.
Yeah.
I don't have to sell anybody. I had a conversation last night with, Rich on our coaching call, talking about how he made that transition over the past year and how well it's working for him. He used to just say, oh, we'll sign up here because we're the best. And now he says, well, why are you here? And we likened it to buying a car. So if you walk into a car dealership and the guy says, let me just show you our best car. You're like, but you don't even know what kind of car I want. Do I have a family? Do I have a dog? Do I go four-wheeling? Do I want luxury? So car salesmen are good at ferreting this information out and figuring out what model to show you. And then the best salesman can tell me why I want that car. Oh, I live in New York. It snows a lot in the winter. My daughter just got her driver's license and I want to get her something that's safe. The Jeep guy will show me the Wrangler because it has four-wheel drive and it's pretty cool and hip. The Subaru guy will show me the WRX because it's a little sporty car, but it also has all-wheel drive. The more adept salesman will say, well, all-wheel drive for a Subaru means that it transfers power from the wheels that slip to the wheels that grip, which means that under normal driving conditions, you won't notice any difference. And the only time that it kicks in is when there's a safety challenge on the road. So now you not only told me what I want and showed me how you're going to help, but you told me why it's important. And when we could do that in our martial arts schools or our child development centers, I think you'll have a much higher rate of not only conversion, but also of making sure that the right people come to you in the first place. Got to have meaning.
Or you might convey them to join you instead of, that studio down the street. I was going to say something else.
I'll never badmouth.
No.
School
you shouldn't.
And I won't even do it like jokingly or in a passive aggressive way where I'll say like, well, I'm the only martial arts school that does the X, because they might do some version of that. I don't know. I'm not a student there.
Yeah.
But I will make sure that everybody knows what I do, why I do it, how I do it, and how it benefits them, until they just say, fine, sign me up.
Mm-hmm. And like a lot of times what they imagine in their head a martial arts studio should be like, and then when they come in, they will see our child development approach, but you're going to have to help them connect those dots.
Yeah, a lot of people are coming now like, are you more Miyagi-Do or Cobra Kai? We have people come in where, when you ask, like, what's your child into so we can connect with them? Like 3-year-olds are coming in thinking their favorite show is Cobra Kai, which, isn't it like rated?
I don't know. Well, I mean,
but
apparently rated G right now is a little more than R back in the days when we were growing up.
I guess, yeah. But it's like you have to change some of those perceptions. And it's like, well, we're neither. This is who we are. This is the meaning.
Yes.
All right. So we're right up on time here. So I have a challenge, and feel free to add on to this, Mr. Salama. My challenge for everybody is to look at your school, your business part, everything from your sales process, marketing, advertising, all of those things, your enrollment process, everything that has to do with your business, and your teaching environment, from what they wear to what they do to why they test to how you tell them they passed or failed. And I want you to find one thing in each venue that either has no meaning and you can change it. You don't have to change it because sometimes it has value, even if it doesn't have meaning, right? But that you now recognize, hey, this has no meaning. Or one thing that has tremendous meaning that you wish people knew more about. I want you to just make those mental connections in those two areas, something in the business side, something on the teaching side, that either has no meaning and you potentially want to change, or something that has tremendous meaning and you wish people knew about it. So you're going to come up with two things, one in each. And then I want you to take action on it, own it, or change it, one or the other.
And if you find it and you're having a difficulty, I guess, linking that together or how you would change it or whatever, just, hit us up.
That's why we're here. Train like Cobra Kai, philosophy of Miyagi-Do, and the determination of Eagle Fang. So I haven't watched the last season, so I don't know about Eagle Fang yet.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm behind.
Once Johnny came up with Eagle Fang, slightly disturbed.
Don't ruin it for me.
I mean, I get it, but come on. I think that's the comedy side of the show.
Yeah. Wait, when Master Ken makes an appearance and kicks all of their butts, all right.
Yeah.
So guys, you have your homework. I hope that you got a little thought provocation out of this. That is the whole goal, is just to get you to think. There's no right or wrong answers in this one. This is all about you creating your environment and hopefully making a better environment for your clients and your students. So go do the thought exercise. Let us know how it goes. And we will see you next Wednesday. next
next
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
All right.
Until then,
Until then.
get it done. Peace out, y'all.
Bye-bye.